As Terry and David said, we're going to talk about artillery tonight. And I just want to start out by asking, anybody in here, besides David and several others, anybody in here have an ancestor that fought in an artillery unit during the war?
No, excuse me.
Artillery. Okay. I know Shaq, you have one. I know David has one. Did anybody else have one? Okay. Well, let me ask you this question. I'm going to pick your brains a little bit now. What do you know about artillery? What do you know about it? Anybody in here have been to a reenactment? Okay. You've heard the artillery go boom. But you ever given any thought to what actually made up an artillery battery? Now, I'm going to talk about Marshall's battery here in just a minute. But before I do that, I want to give you kind of the makeup of what a Confederate battery actually was during the war. Okay? First off, the Confederate battery consisted of 4 guns. The Federals would have 6, Confederates would have 4. Okay? Early in the war, some Confederate batteries had 6, but more often than not, they had 4 guns. A battery was commanded by either a captain or a first lieutenant. Confederate batteries were usually named after their commanding officer. Marshall's Tennessee Battery, Mary's Tennessee Battery. They were usually named after their commanding officer. One gun, now this is just one gun, was mounted on a 2-wheel carriage and had an additional 2-wheel carriage containing a limber box for ammo and an additional 2-wheel carriage that carried 2 additional ammo chests and supplies along with a spare wheel. Each ammo box and supplies weighed up to 500 pounds. Each gun now was served or operated by a 7 to 8 man crew. Each gun needed 25 to 30 men to keep it actually operating in the field. Because you had people for horses, you had people to guard the extra ammo that was usually kept in the rear where the horses were. 25 to 30 men per gun to keep it actually operating in the field. A well-trained crew could fire 2 to 3 rounds a minute. And the way they would fire these things, I've got some stuff up here on the table that during our break, if you want to come up here and look at it, handle it, touch it, and everything, it's fine. The way they would actually fire a gun was they would have to actually, after they fired the gun, they would actually have to cool this gun down before they load their next round. Because every time they fired, it left embers. It left burning residue in the barrel. So that would have to be cleared out. These 2 things here, this thing here called a worm, this was called a sponge rammer. The worm was used to extract bits and pieces of canvas, because the powder bags were made out of canvas. Extract pieces of canvas, but it still left burning residue in the barrel.
Keep them from crossing the river, and they moved up instead and came up by way of Marion County and Bridgeport and through that area and wound up at Stringer's Ridge, right across from Chattanooga. They set up a fortification on Stringer's Ridge. Meanwhile, Watkins had moved back to Chattanooga, and he and his unit were ordered to Cameron Hill, where they had already created their own fortifications in preparation for the oncoming event. They were joined by Darden's Mississippi Artillery and by Massenburg's Mississippi Artillery. And they were in a triangular shape on Cameron Hill, with Lookout Battery as the forward battery. They exchanged rounds with the Union troops on Stringer's Ridge, and the first shell failed to explode. It landed in the mud in front of the fortification and was later retrieved by Lieutenant Lauderdale.